Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. We have a very exciting final to get into. Naomi Osaka versus Victoria Mboko for the National Bank Open title. This is going to be a really interesting one to break down because we have two players in very good form. I think two players who a lot of people would not have picked to make the final here. We had Świątek in the draw, Rebecca in the draw, but these guys have come through and beaten some top players en route. So it's been a really exciting tournament so far. And Naomi Osaka making her first final since Miami in 2002 and her first final, a hardcore final anyway, since her comeback. For Victoria Mboko at 18 years of age, this is her first final of her career, her first Masters final anyway. And sorry, let me again rephrase for Naomi, her first Masters final since 2022. I can't wait for this one, honestly. And if you're not excited for it, then I'm not sure what's wrong with you, honestly. But this is a really good one to get into. Before we do though, remember to hit that like button, do subscribe if you're new, and do leave a rating or review if you're listening on a podcast platform. So, two very impressive semi-final displays from both players. Osaka coming through against Towson, who looked very good this tournament, beating Świątek en route to her semi-final berth. So she is the reason why Świątek is not at this stage. And Victoria Mboko coming through Rebecca. Rebecca was serving for the match and she came through. Mboko managed to break her back and then win in a final set tiebreaker, a very tight one as well. Really impressive display from Mboko. Nerves of steel, really good, solid mental performance, I think, from the Canadian. And for Osaka, she has just shown that her level is there. She has been breezing through against some players like the likes of Svitolina and others. And I think she's shown that, there was a moment actually earlier in this tournament where she saved match points and then she came back to win. And I said at that point, this could be a real turning point in her comeback and in this tournament, and it has been. And if she goes on to win this title, don't worry, I will come back to that moment and I will say to you guys, I told you. Look, I think Naomi is a slight favourite. That's how I view this one, because despite it being in Canada, despite Mboko playing really well, and obviously having the crowd behind her, the experience Osaka has is quite big. And I did say that Rebecca, and I was wrong, although I was very close with the Mboko prediction, although she came through in the end. I'm a massive fan of Victoria Mboko. We spoke to her at Wimbledon. She is an extremely big talent. I just have a feeling that Osaka, she is primed for this. She has been waiting for this very moment to... She's just been waiting to get an opportunity like this to really stamp her authority on the tour and say, look, I'm here. I'm a contender for these big tournaments. And not just for Masters 1000 tournaments, but I'm going to be there at the Grand Slams as well, and you better watch out. And what's great about the women's tour is that when you have someone like an Osaka, if she were to win Cincinnati, it is a if she were to win the National Bank Open, it'll be a real clear indicator that she could potentially go deep, if not win the US Open, because if we're just taking out all the other outside factors, just plainly look at the format. On the men's, you have best of 5 for Grand Slams. It's almost a different game to the other tournaments, but for the women's tour, you don't have that. You have best of 3 for every tournament, including the Grand Slam. So if she's able to do it at Cincinnati, which has been an extended tournament as well, almost as long as a Grand Slam, then, sorry, and the National Bank Open, I keep on saying Cincinnati, but if she were to do it at Cincinnati as well, then obviously even better, then you would look at that and say, well, why can't she do it at the US Open? Now, the big factor would be, well, she hasn't run into a Sabalenka, she hasn't run into a Rybakina, she hasn't run into a Swiatek, and that's true. I still think she would, in this form, have a good chance against all of them. I'm not saying she'd necessarily win, but I think she'd have a good chance. So that's just something to bear in mind, and I'm hoping that she carries this form into Cincinnati and then the US Open. Same for Mboko, because both these players should be doing well at the US Open, given how well they are playing at the moment on hard court. The US Open is not too far away. Tactically, how does this play out? So Osaka, she's been serving well, and we know her serve is a big proponent of her game. And same for Mboko. I think Osaka's second serve is slightly better, I would say, than Mboko's. In saying that, Mboko dealt with the Rybakina second serve quite well. I was worried that she wasn't going to be able to attack it as much, but she made it work. Osaka's second serve is more attackable, and I think Mboko will get some success on that second serve return. Osaka's also going to be aggressive though, so I don't think we're going to see super long rallies for the majority of the points. I think a lot of this match is going to come down to who has and who executes their first strike tennis better. I said that about the Mboko Rybakina match, and the same holds true here. And what's really beautiful about this matchup is that Mboko's just come up against Rybakina, who plays a relatively similar style to Osaka, and Osaka's just beaten Towson, who also plays a relatively similar style to Mboko. So it means that both these guys will be ready. Both these women will be ready for each other. They've actually had pretty good prep in the semi-finals for this final in terms of style similarities. Osaka, the biggest thing that she can do, the biggest thing that puts her, the biggest thing that really, for me anyway, gives her the edge in this match is her use of angles, is her ability to find those angles and drag out opponents with just incredible hand manipulation. And I've said it before in my previous previews, and I would like to see the stats on this, but from what I can see, she hits with a deceiving amount of topspin. She hits a lot more topspin than you'd expect, because the way that she's able to find those angles, for the most part, they're not flat ground strokes. They've got a lot of topspin on them to drag opponents away, and that's how she finds those short angles. For Mboko, I think what's going to be quite key is trying to get Osaka on the back foot, because Mboko, for me, she's better on the front foot, as is Osaka. I still do think, though, that Mboko defends better. I think she's a more natural defender than Osaka. And if Osaka's having to defend for a lot of points in this match, it's going to be extremely difficult for her to gain any sort of momentum. And I think it's going to be very difficult for her to win a lot of those points. So that's not really where she wants to be. For Mboko, I think it's going to be tough for her as well defending, but I think she'll win a higher percentage of points defending than Osaka. And I think for both players, the serve is going to be crucial. I don't always say that for women's matches, because sometimes, in a lot of cases, there's a lot of breaks of serve, and it actually doesn't necessarily just come down to who's serving better, because neither player has the ability, well, not ability is not the right word, but the power, the unreturnable, the ace ability on their serve. They don't have that skill, so they don't have that power to really get through the court with their serve and gain a lot of free points. So it's inevitable that they're going to have to win from their +1, +2, +3 off their serve. But that's not necessarily the case for Osaka and Mboko, because both players have that, they have that asset, which is their serve, and they're able to obtain 3 points off their serves. Both aggressive on return. I think Osaka, in my opinion, has the better backhand, and on the forehand wing, Mboko's forehand line is really good, but so is Osaka's. I'd actually say off the ground, Osaka's got the more polished ground strokes. And Mboko, though, has been very good at just fighting and scrapping and really digging in deep when needed. And I think that's been the biggest, not necessarily improvement, because I think she has shown that in the past, despite not even playing that many matches. But I think it's the biggest takeaway from this tournament for me when watching her is her mental resilience. So that's been a real standout. It's a tough one to call. The crowd definitely will play their part, I'm sure. But I think Osaka's used to it. And I think Osaka will get the win. I think she will win in 3 sets. I think it's going to be a really tight one. And I would not be surprised if Victoria Mboko wins. But I'm going to stick to my guns and go with Osaka. Let me know in the comment section below who you think is going to win and why. As you can tell, I've been really wrestling with my thoughts and trying to understand how this one's going to play out, because I think it's a tough one to call. It really is. Thanks very much, guys. Stay safe for a while, and we'll see you on the next video.